Hello, St. Patrick's and friends of St. Patrick's. Hope you're having a great week after just a phenomenal time celebrating the Lord's death and resurrection last week during a Holy Week. We were remarking at staff meeting this week how much it just was meaningful to us. And so I want to thank you guys for participating and being a big part of that. I wanted to share with you guys something that has struck me in the past, but I actually found a verse that made a lot of sense about it. And this idea, the idea is that sin itself is its own kind of negative reward. It is bad in and of itself. When you do sin, it actually is terrible to you. Well, there's this common misconception, and certainly I think a lie from the accuser and from the devil himself, who tries to make sin seem like it's great. And the thought has gone around, I think, in Christian circles that you have to put aside the thing that tastes good or is great, because in actuality, later on, you're going to pay for it. But that sin itself it has rewards. That's not the way the Bible talks about it. That the actual sin that we do is detrimental to us from the beginning. That the only thing the enemy offers is a veneer of something that's good or tasty or appealing, right, or attractive. One thing that made me think about this a little bit this week to renew this was I read somebody talking about an episode of The Twilight Zone. It's very, very old. For those of you guys that don't know what that is, it was a show that can be kind of creepy. Well, there was this guy who was in the show was an addictive gambler, and he ends up going through bankruptcy and losing a lot of money. Anyway, and losing in relationships. He dies. And then the place that he goes to, it ends up being a casino. And for whatever reason, it's completely different. It's a beautiful casino, and he's like an A-lister and VIP or whatever. And every time he places a bet, he wins. And it's this amazing thing. He wins and wins and wins. He never loses. Well, eventually he gets tired of it. And it turns out that it's sickening to him. That part of what he really enjoyed about gambling was that there was this option of losing. And he realizes that the place he is in is not heaven that he imagined, but actually hell. Kind of a silly way to think about it. But I think one of the things that we misunderstand about sin is that we think it's a good thing on the outside, and maybe it goes a little bit deeper, a good thing, and it's only a bad thing maybe because the Lord tells us it's not a bad thing. Well, okay, so here's the verse I was talking about. In Romans chapter 6, we know this famous verse, verse 23, for the wages of sin is death. Those are God's words through Paul, and we understand what that means. But there's more to it. In the verses previous, this is what Paul's argument really is about. He says in verse 20, for when you were slaves of sin, you were free in regard to righteousness. Notice verse 21. But what fruit, he asks a question, a rhetorical question. What fruit were you getting at the time from the things of which you are now ashamed? It's a little bit like ask the question of somebody saying, defending their lifestyle, and you just ask a simple question, how's that working out for you? It's a powerful question and an important one. And what it points to is that sin itself is its own negative reward. It's its own punishment. There's nothing about sin. There's nothing about sin that is good for you or for me. There's no period of time where we say, it actually was kind of nice and then it got me. No, it's immediately destructive. And I think it goes all the way back to the garden. When Adam and Eve sinned for the first time, the Lord said you would die. And the death inside of them began immediately. They were immediately cast out of the garden. They were immediately ashamed. They immediately couldn't stand the paradise God had created for them. Not because of something bad in the paradise, but something that had suddenly taken root in themselves. Something to ponder. I just thought that's fascinating. It's an important thing when we try to resist temptation and resist sin. This is why. Anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful week, that this strikes you and you consider it, meditate upon it. We are praying for you and can't wait to see what God has for us this Easter season and this season of our church plant. Keep praying for us, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.